Hello team, welcome to my first Owen Does F1 race review. We're going to talk about the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. So first up, at the front of the pack, Red Bull, they were just too good. No one was stopping them, and I think we're in for a boring season. We're going to see a lot of Red Bull 1-2s. Verstappen's probably going to cruise to a championship. Hopefully Perez can do something to stop him. If I was Perez, I'd be trying to finish second every opportunity I got, and hoping you can find a couple races where Verstappen DNFs, get a bit of luck going your way, but it's going to be very difficult to stop Verstappen. Then you've got a brilliant battle for second going on. You've got Ferrari seem to be the quickest of the three, but they, from the first race at least, look like they're struggling with reliability and also with tyre degradation. So these tracks with high deg, they're going to do well to finish as the second best team. And Aston Martin and Mercedes look very close, and probably it seems to edge towards Aston Martin at the moment, although Mercedes maybe have slightly quicker one-lap pace. But if the difference is going to come down to the drivers, it's going to be a really interesting season for Lance Stroll. This is going to be his big chance to show what he can do. The other three, we know what they can do. With Lance Stroll, he's got something to prove. And another point I've just thought of is when you look at what Toto Wolff's saying, obviously Mercedes have come to this first race with their zero side pod philosophy, and it's just not worked out for them this season. We've compared to how they ended last season, we really thought they'd be a lot closer this year, and it's just not happened. And from what Toto and Lewis have been saying, I would not be surprised if we saw Mercedes in a few races' time coming with a completely different looking car, and they want to take that hit now and drop back in pace a bit, but they have the higher ceiling so that in a year's time they're going to be a lot higher up than they would be in their current philosophy. Interesting times in the Mercedes garage. So now I'm going to go through and do a tier list of each driver's race. First up, last place was Oscar Piastri, and I can't really judge him on his race. He didn't really get a chance to do anything before that failure, but what I can judge him on is his qualifying, and P18, when his teammate was up in 11th, we had high hopes for Oscar, and sure, Lando Norris is his teammate, but I was expecting better, so for the overall for the weekend, I'm going to give him a D. In 19th place, it's Charles Leclerc. I would have loved to have seen what he could have done if he was given the chance to go out and fight for pole, but Ferrari didn't let him, and then his Ferrari engine blew up in the race when he was comfortably running in P3. No fault of his own. I'm going to give him a B. In P18, Esteban Ocon, a weekend to forget for him. He started with a start line infringement, and then the team started work on his car 0.4 seconds too early, which resulted in him getting another 10-second penalty. Then when he comes in to serve that, he speeds in the pit lane and gets another penalty. He retired in the end, I'm not too sure why, but a very bad weekend for Esteban. Qualifying was okay, but it's all about scoring points in the race, so it's an F for him. P17, we've got Lando Norris, and I thought he actually had quite a good weekend from the pure driving perspective. In qualifying, he finished 11th in what looks to be an absolute shitbox of a McLaren. The race comes along, he has to pit 6 times, finishes last on track, which is to be expected when you have to pit that many times. But what stuck out to me was there was it must have been about lap 50 to 60, when he was behind the little group of Alonso, Hamilton and Sainz, and he hung on to the back of that group really well, and he looked like he had some really good pace in that McLaren. Looking forward to see what he can do when he doesn't have these reliability issues. So for him, I'm going to give him a C, because at the end of the day, it is all about the points. P16, Guan Yu Zhou. A nice and easy one. He had a pretty quiet weekend. It was just okay. I think in qualifying, he's done quite well. He's finished not far behind, but only one place behind Valtteri Bottas. But then you look at the race. I don't know if he had an issue or something, but when you've got your teammate in P8 scoring decent points for the team and you're down in P16, it's not a good look. So unfortunately for Zhou, I'm gonna have to give him a D. P15, Nico Hulkenberg, and I am coming for you. I sent you an apology after taking Mick Schumacher's seat when you qualified in P10, but that race performance was shocking. Penalty for going out of track limits too many times. You do this for a living. I can stay in the track limits on my sim behind me. I don't get paid to do that. You do. You should be better. It's an F for you. P14, Nick de Vries. It was an okay weekend. Again, a quiet one. Didn't get much coverage. Qualified 5 places below your teammate, which never good. Clawed it back a bit in the race, but still quite a bit behind Sonoda. I expected better for De Vries. It's a D. P13, Kevin Magnussen. This is a fairly simple one. Very poor qualifying by his standards. Pole in Brazil last year to P17 here, but P13 in the race, gained a few positions from DNFs and genuine overtaking. Still 0 points, so it's a D. Logan Sargent. Now this is going to be a good one. In the Williams, which, by the way, looks to be probably almost just as bad as the McLaren, but he puts the exact same time in as Lando Norris. Still goes out because Lando does the time first, but still a great qualifying result. So close to getting out of Q1. And then in the race he finishes P12. Logan Sargent should be very proud of that result, and I'm going to give him a B. P11, Yuki Tsunoda. Now, the end of this race, I don't know if this was just me, but at the end, after people were crossing the line, you could see on the time chart there was this battle for P10 between Albon and Tsunoda. And the cameras all cut away from it, and suddenly they got rid of the timing column. I was very frustrated because I wanted to know who was coming across the line for P10 for that final point. It's not like they're fighting for P12 or something. This is for a point in the championship, which by the end of the season could be a huge point. I thought Yuki, he's had an okay qualifying in P12. Finishing P11, it's an awful place to finish when you're just one place away from the points. But he's had a good weekend. He's going to be very upset he didn't get points, but I'm still going to give him a B because he was very close to it, and I think he did great. P10, Alex Albon in the Williams. P15 in qualifying, he gets out of Q1, and then they had some issue with the front wing, so he didn't run in Q2. So he starts from 15th, having not been able to put a proper qualifying lap in Q2, and he finishes 10th. Absolutely brilliant from him. It could be Williams' only point of the season. I really hope he continues to perform like this, and he's gonna cause some excitement. He gets to the first S of the season from me. P9, Pierre Gasly. Started P20. Terrible qualifying, but what a race. He's brought it right back to finish P9 and pick up some points. He's gained 11 positions in the race. You can't really complain with that. It is all about points in a championship like this. Yeah, especially when you look at, you sort of got 4 teams now who are almost untouchable for the midfield. Pierre Gasly picking up 2 points in a race like this where he started in last is going to be big come the end of the season, I think. So for that, he gets a B. In P8, we had Valtteri Bottas. He didn't pit under that virtual safety car, and he looked like he was struggling towards the end with Gasly was catching him quick, but he held on for P8. That is a really good result for Alfa Romeo. He qualified in 12th, which is about what you'd expect him to be, but to hop in and pick up 4 points, brilliant result. Valtteri Bottas gets an A. P7, George Russell. I love him, but it should have been better. He qualified in P6 ahead of Hamilton and Stroll. He could have been. He, from that position, you want to be ahead of Alonso. The position he should be aiming for there is P5, but he's finished the worst of the best. But he's finished. He's picked up good points. So whilst it's not a good performance, he still picked up decent points. So for that, he gets a C. P6, Lance Stroll. So Aston Martin looked to have a better race car than the Mercedes, whilst the Mercedes looks to be a better qualifying car. But when you look at what Lance Stroll has gone through with his injuries this weekend, it's an absolutely incredible race from him. But it still is only P6. When you look at your teammate up in P3, I struggle to take into account your personal injury level. This is a long championship. If you're not up for it, you're not up for it. You've got to be scoring points from the get-go. And whilst he's done that, he's not scored as many points as his teammate. So it's a B. P5, the greatest of all time, Lewis Hamilton. He could have got P4, let's be real. He sort of sat behind that Ferrari for a bit and didn't know if he was going to get past or not. He sort of dropped off by the end, and it looked like he was fighting with Alonso for P3, and by the end of it he was comfortably P5, unable to challenge for anyone, beaten by his teammate in qualifying, but P5 is great points, so Lewis Hamilton gets a B. P4, Carlos Sainz. Qualifying fourth, finishing fourth, in normal circumstances you say he'd had a good race, but when you look at what Charles Leclerc was doing before that engine failure, you'd think he really should have finished ahead of Alonso. But that being said, P4, he's still scored good points. He's ahead of his teammate in the championship, so he still gets a C. Now we're on to the podium. In P3, it was Fernando Alonso. He lived up to the hype of testing, gave us a really good race. He did it the hard way. That overtake on Hamilton into 10. What a move that was. It just looked for so long like he wasn't going to do it, he wasn't going to be on the podium. But by the end, he made it look easy, and he enjoyed every moment of it. It was absolutely beautiful to watch, and he is getting an S. Congratulations, Fernando. In P2, it's Sergio Perez. He had a very comfortable race. He looked at the start, and this is the big issue for him. At the start, he got stuck behind Leclerc for a long time, and this let Verstappen just drive off into the distance. And I think it's a big shame because you want to see that fight at the front. And when he's in the same car as Verstappen, to be beaten by that much is definitely a negative. But you finish second. It's if you accept that he's slower than Verstappen, all he can do is finish second. So I'm going to give him a B. Well, a bit of time's gone past now, and I realised I never filmed my reaction to Max's race. Don't really have anything to say about it. It's an easy S. Congratulations, Max. Looks like he's going to cruise to a third world title. So that is my tier list for the race. I quite enjoyed it, but I think if Alonso hadn't have been making that charge through the field at the end as he was, it would have been a very boring race. As the race overall, I'll give it a D. I'll see you in Saudi Arabia. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Instagram. Bosh.